Spring brings renewal, rebirth, and many religious feasts and celebrations. With Passover and Easter past, religious traditions continue with the Muslim observance of Ramadan, which is a month-long period of reflection beginning the evening of April the 12th of this year through the evening of May the 11th. Welcome to Summer Bakes the World. We bake traditional breads and dishes from all over the world. I love learning a little history and culture about each of my bakes. While it enhances the experience, understanding history and culture evokes appreciation. It allows us to communicate better with others and truly value what we each bring to the table. Ramadan is a 30-day fasting period from sunrise to sunset, filled with prayer, giving, and self-evaluation. Yes, no eating or drinking during daylight hours. It's a time to forego worldly pleasures and concentrate on the inner self. Regardless of your religious perspectives, I don't think you can argue with the benefits of the Ramadan focus. Fasting creates a justifiable means for that profound focus that teaches patience, compassion, and gratitude. Ramadan occurs every 9 months on the Islamic calendar. It is a sacred month for millions of Muslims around the world. The word Ramadan is also known as Ramazan in Turkish. It comes from the Arabic word ramad or ramida, meaning drought. Thus, the reasoning for abstinence during Ramadan from eating and drinking, including water from dawn till dusk. Ironically, the fasting Ramadan is also known for its amazing iftar feast after sunset. That leads us to the Turkish pide bread we're making today. 1 hour before evening prayer, bakeries in Turkey begin seeing lines of people form outside of their doors to purchase this famous Ramazan pide bread to take home and eat for iftar. Ramadan feasts are tamed to some extent, excluding too much fried, some sugary and salty foods, as they can cause fatigue and sluggishness during the fasting hours. Bread, however, is highly enjoyed. So in honor of our Muslim friends who are devoted to finding their righteous path, today's bake is a traditional Ramazan Turkish pide bread. Pide is an enriched yeast flatbread primarily enjoyed during Ramadan, but can be enjoyed by anyone wherever you live and whatever you believe. Here are the ingredients. All-purpose flour, yeast, water, milk, butter, olive oil, sugar, salt, and for the topping, egg, yogurt, sesame seeds, and Nigella seeds, which are also known as black cumin seeds. This is quite the indulgent bread for breaking a fast. Now I understand the lines in front of the bakeries in Turkey, but why wait in line or go to Turkey for it when you can make it at home? This famous bread can easily be made in a standing mixer or by hand. Today, I'm going to use my standing mixer for ease, but we will still knead a little by hand after the main kneading in the mixer. So first of all, we're going to add 4 cups of flour. I've already added 3 cups of flour into my mixing bowl here, and this is my stand mixer bowl. But if you're kneading by hand, just put in a large bowl. And then I'm putting in my last 4th cup here. When you're measuring flour, be sure to fluff it in the container first and then scoop it into your measuring cup. Always make a mess. And then rake off the excess at the top. That way you get exactly the amount you need and no more. To that, we're going to add 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. That's actually 1 package of yeast that you can buy in the grocery store. So then I'm just going to use my little whisk here and just do a quick little mix just to make sure everything is combined and mixed well. So we're going to put our flour and yeast mixture aside, and we're going to work with our wet ingredients. I know most breads that I make usually call for dry ingredients first, then add the wet ingredients. We're going with an authentic Ramazan Turkish pide bread, and this is the recipe for it. So we're going to give it a go. I already have 1 1/3 cups of water in a measuring cup, and I'm going to go ahead and add a 1/2 cup of milk to that. And then we're going to heat up both of these in the microwave. You could also heat them up over a stove. I always like to measure my liquids on a flat surface to ensure that I get no more or no less of the liquid than I need. I'm gonna add that half cup of milk here, and then I'm just gonna heat them up in the microwave. I just had my milk and water in the microwave to heat it up between 100 and 110 degrees because that's the prime temperature to activate the yeast. And my thermometer says after 1 minute, I started at 30 seconds and checked the temperature, but 1 minute took my water and milk to reach a little under 105 degrees. So that's where we want it. So then we're just gonna pour this in our flour and yeast mixture, and I'm just going to use a spoon. You could use a whisk or a fork to make sure that it combines well. All right, so we're just gonna do a nice little stir here. I think a spatula with a good sturdy handle works well in mixing this up, and I was able to get any loose flour that was at the bottom of my mixer up into the dough. So I think it looks pretty good as is, and of course it's gonna knead for a long time anyway. We're gonna add 1 tablespoon of softened butter. My butter wasn't very soft because my room temperature is a little bit cooler than room temperature. So I just placed a tablespoon in the microwave, chopped it up, put it in there for about 10 seconds, stirred it, perfect. To 1 tablespoon of butter, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Okay, that's 1 and 2. At this point, we can go ahead and add 1 tablespoon of sugar and 1 teaspoon of salt. That dough hook doesn't really reach the bottom of the bowl as it's kneading. So if I notice I have granulated salt or sugar that's hanging out at the bottom, or even oil for that matter, I like to help move everything around first. And actually that did pretty good. So I think we can now add it to the mixer and then let the mixer do its job. Use the mixer and let it knead for 10 minutes. If you're kneading by hand, you want to knead for 15 minutes on a lightly floured surface, or even in the bowl. I think that's traditional for a lot of countries. It's just to knead in the bowl, which I've done before as well. 10 minutes, we're going to come back, and then we're going to knead by hand. My mixer's been going for 10 minutes, so I'm going to stop it. I did stop it once or twice during the kneading process just to scrape down the edges of the bowl so that the dough could continue to be working in. Let's take a look at what we have here. It's a nice sticky dough, and we want that for right now. We want a nice fluffy sticky dough. So we still need to knead for 5 minutes. Now, if you've been kneading by hand, then you just knead for your 15 minutes. That's all you have to do. If you use the mixer, we need to transfer it to a lightly floured surface. So as usual, I'll put down a nice dish towel, and then I grab my kneading board, which is just a cutting surface, but it's a very big cutting surface. If you're interested in a cutting board like this, I do have it linked below this video to Amazon where I bought it, which I love. So you may want to try that if you have space in your kitchen for it. We're gonna lightly flour our surface. We're just going to scoop out our dough. Notice how quickly and easily it comes loose from the pan. It's not sticking to the pan. Again, if you're kneading by hand, you can stop after 15 minutes. All right, so just add some flour to your hands, because this is going to be a sticky dough. This dough should remain soft and fluffy. If it turns out it's too firm, just add in an extra tablespoon of olive oil and mix it in. Oh, this is so soft. Oh my goodness, this feels amazing. All right, it's one reason why I like to knead in the mixer, the standing mixer, because you don't have to add any extra flour. When you knead by hand, you tend to have to add a little extra flour because it gets sticky on your hands, it gets sticky on the work surface, so you have to add it in there. So we don't want to add too much flour, but we are going to knead this for 5 minutes. All right, I'm finishing up my few minutes here. Here's how you can tell if your dough has been kneaded enough. You take some dough off, and then you stretch it. And if you can see through it like a window pane, then you know it's done. And look, I can continue to stretch it. It's not breaking as I'm stretching it, but if you can see that, then you know your dough is done. So I'm gonna put my little mass there back in a large loaf, knead it back in a little bit. I'm gonna place my dough back into the bowl that I was kneading it in, like so. I'm gonna cover it with a little bit of plastic wrap sprayed with cooking spray, so as the dough rises, it doesn't stick to the plastic if it goes up to the top of the plastic. Now we're gonna stick this in a warm space. If you don't want to use plastic wrap, you can always use a towel and just cover your bowl with the towel. I'm going to sit my bowl over on the stove that I have my oven set at 200 degrees right now, so that creates that nice warm environment. Now, the directions say to allow the dough to rise for 2 hours or until double in size. My baking experience says as long as you use room temperature ingredients and you have your bowl insulated in a nice, well-covered area and you have a warm space, an hour is usually all I ever need. I'm gonna do my usual and I'm gonna check in an hour. And then if it needs more time to rise, I'll let it rise. But we're looking for doubled in size. That's when you know it's ready. So our dough has more than doubled. I'll show you that in a minute. So before we mess with the dough, we need to fill a shallow baking tray or cookie sheet. This is an 18 by 13, but you can use whatever size that you want. Go ahead and place it on the bottom rack in your oven. And to the cookie sheet on the bottom rack, carefully pour in the water. And I'm using 4 cups for a 13 by 18 inch tray. And you might need less than that if your tray is smaller. Okay, close it and then set your oven to 430 degrees. And that's our preheat temperature, 430 degrees. All right, take a look at our dough. It did rise to the top. This is almost tripled in size for the size dough that we had to start with in this bowl. I looked at it about the hour mark. It was already double in size, but I just let it sit for longer because I wanted to see what the 2 hour would look like. So glad I sprayed my plastic because it was touching the plastic, and it's starting to deflate because it's risen so much. I would not let this go as long as I did in the future because it's already starting to deflate. So that's kind of the downside. If you let your dough rise too long, it'll just start to deflate. Kind of defeats the purpose. Flour surface. I love to watch it as I move the dough from the bowl. Look at just all those fibers from the gluten that have developed, and it deflates fairly easily. We're just gonna scoop it out. While our oven is preheating, we're gonna just make sure this dough is deflated a little bit. I'm not gonna do any serious kneading here, but I really just wanna form it because we're gonna make 2 loaves out of this. So we're gonna shape it. And I'm just gonna use my serrated knife because it always works best for me. You could use that bench cutter, you could use that. Okay, it looks nice. I like that dough. It's so fluffy too. I really do like the way this dough is gonna work. It's meant to be fluffy and light when it comes out of the oven after it's baked. So I suspect it will be that way because that's the way it looks. You're just going to shape this into either rounds or ovals, and they should be about a 1/2 inch thick. So I guess you could think of it like when you're making thick pizza crust. 1/2 inch of 1/2 of this bread is like 9.5 to 10 inches in diameter. So you can keep that in mind as you're flattening yours. So I have here my favorite dough maker cookie sheet, and this is a large one. This is like a 20.5 by 14.5, so it's fairly large. I'm gonna place some parchment paper on it. You could certainly just flour it like you would pizza, and that would be fine. We're gonna take one of our loaves that we've shaped. I'm just placing it here on my cookie sheet. We're gonna come back and make some slits into this bread, but right now we're just gonna get it placed on the sheet. So take the other half, just do the same thing, just flatten it out a bit. Now we're gonna place it on our cookie sheet. Again, you could probably use 2 cookie sheets if you want. So we're almost done here preparing our pide breads. Now we're gonna put some artistic designs in it, which is tradition of the pide. So you take a sharp knife about 1 inch from the edge, but we're gonna slash a circle. Does that make sense, slashing a circle? So we did not cut all the way through. We just made a defined circle using our knife around the edge of the breads. The last design we're gonna make is diamonds. Slash the center, like so. Now we're not cutting all the way through. We're just slicing it enough so that the designs are apparent when it's baked, but doesn't separate. Okay, so that's one direction, so I'm gonna rotate my bread and I'm going to go the other direction. Again, we're only working in the circle. And this is gonna produce like some diamonds or squares. That's my first one. That looks pretty good. Do the same for the other one. Those look pretty, huh? To finish our topping, we're going to put in a small bowl an egg yolk. Now I'm going to divide my egg yolk from my egg white first. And I always like to do that using my hands. I know there's like egg white and egg yolk separators, but to me this is just the easiest way to get it separated. Careful not to break the yolk in the process or you just have to start over. So I'm going to place my yolk in a bowl that I'm going to actually be using. Save your egg white for breakfast or dinner, using it however you want. We will not need it. To our room temperature egg yolk here, we're going to add 1/2 cup of yogurt. And I like to spray my cup with cooking spray so that the yogurt easily comes out. You can use any kind of yogurt as long as it's plain. And then we're just going to add it to our bowl and then just mix it up. This is an interesting topping. I've never used yogurt as a brush for any bread before, so I think this is traditional Turkish. A lot of Turkish cuisine has yogurt, and so this seems like a natural topping for this bread. And we're just going to generously brush on this yogurt egg mixture. Okay, I'm finishing up the brush. I hate to waste any ingredients, so I ended up putting all of my yogurt mixture on top. This is really interesting to me. I have never done a topping with yogurt. I can't wait to see what Scott says as far as taste. All right, I did use up all of it, as you can see. But we'll find out once it's cooked if you should use it all, although the directions do recommend it. Okay, now we're gonna sprinkle over the seeds. So we've got sesame seeds here. I'm gonna start with that one. Just do a generous sprinkling. I think the recipe calls for a tablespoon, but when it comes to things like this, I never measure. It's just more of what it looks like and if I'm happy with it. That's how I did determine if there's enough. Okay, so that's one seed. All right, now we're gonna add the black cumin seeds, which are called Nigella seeds. And I have to say, I'm pretty fascinated by these seeds. They are very traditional in Middle Eastern, North African cuisine, and there are so many health benefits to this. In my blog for this recipe, I'll give you the details of the health benefits of this seed. They have medicinal properties, they have therapeutic properties, so it's pretty interesting how we sort of don't really have this in American culture. It's hard to find these. I had to order these through Amazon, and I have the link in the description below this video where you can get the seeds. So that's it. We're gonna place our 2 pide bread in the oven where the water tray is on the bottom rack, but we're gonna put these on the middle rack for 30 minutes until the top becomes deep golden brown. Well, our bread just came out of the oven. Take a look. This bread is meant to be eaten immediately. What is recommended is that if you're not gonna eat it for a while, since it should be a soft bread, not crunchy, is to wrap it in a moist towel and let it sit until you're ready to eat it, and that way the exterior will be soft as well as the inside. And that's what it's meant to be, a soft bread out and in. So let's dig in. The cuts are not quite as defined as I thought they would be, but that's probably because I put a ton of seeds on them. So you don't have to put as many seeds if you really want to see the cuts, or you can make the cuts a little bit more defined than what I did. Notice the yellow coloring and white from the yogurt. Nice mix of the brown, nice mix of the black and the white seeds. And it's not crunchy. Look at that. Look how soft it is. And that was from all that water that we put in the oven to create that steam. Let's cut into this and see what we have. Oh, notice how soft that is. Really soft. Bounces back. It's well cooked. Again, the top is still soft. Yeah, I love it. Love the way this looks. Let's tear into it. Oh yeah, that's a pretty crumb. So soft. Whew, I love this bread. Easy to make, quick to bake. What could go wrong with this bread? Scott's joining us to taste and describe our Turkish pide bread today, since I am unable to taste it with its gluten ingredients. Hey Scott.
Hi.
Would you go ahead and take a bite? And while you're doing that, let me tell you what's in it. Pide bread is a yeast bread made with rich ingredients like butter, eggs, sugar, olive oil, and a little milk. There are no significant amounts of any of these ingredients. It shouldn't taste super indulgent, but they are there. It's eaten at dusk for the iftar meal during Ramadan, along with dates, soup, meat, rice, and yogurt is served with this. But it can be eaten anytime, for anyone, and for anything. The topping is a yogurt egg yolk brush sprinkled with white sesame seeds and Nigella seeds, which are black cumin seeds. The Nigella seeds have health benefits. They have anti-inflammatory and therapeutic properties. In fact, their medicinal qualities are the reason that they were found in King Tut's tomb when that was discovered. Pretty cool, huh? All right, you've had a chance to taste. I've jabbered a little bit. What do you think?
There's a lot of ingredients in this, I can tell. It's complex in flavors, I think. It's very good. I can taste the olive oil. Did you say there's yogurt spread
yes,
on the top?
On the top, yogurt egg yolk. I've never brushed yogurt on any bread before. This is a first. Can you taste it?
Yeah, that's an interesting flavor, as well as the different seeds on it. It definitely gives it a different flavor. It's versatile, I could say. You could eat this for dinner, but it also would be good at breakfast, I would say, which is not the same with a lot of breads that you make.
No, and you know, when you think about it, you know, we're talking about it being a breakfast bread, but at the same time you can say, but it has all these seeds on it. Well, the interesting thing about Nigella seeds, and I'm actually going to taste a couple right here, is that even though they're cumin seeds, they don't taste like cumin to me. They're a little bitter, have a little bit of a pungent taste, but they go well in oatmeal or on a salad, like chia seeds. Think of it as like a chia seeds. It's not super strong, but it does have a pungent flavor. You can taste them. Do you notice the flavoring in them?
Yeah, it's not overpowering, but yeah, I can taste them.
Yeah, so yeah, as I'm tasting it, to me, they have a very earthy flavor to them.
Yeah, this is a good bread. I'm a little bit surprised in the flavor of it. You did mention a lot of ingredients, so I guess that makes sense.
Right, well, it's super fluffy too and soft.
Yeah.
This is a basic pide bread. It looks very familiar. It resembles pita bread from Greece, focaccia from Italy, and fougasse from France. So this bread has traveled all over the world, even naan in India. We can thank Turkey for influencing all of these, particularly the Italian pizza. There are many different types of pide, including the boat shape that's filled with toppings anywhere from meat to veggies, eggs, and cheese. Another bread to cross cultural boundaries, even ancient boundaries here. The next time you're eating pizza, think about where that idea originated. Consider making your own pizza using traditional Middle Eastern toppings like ground lamb mixed with cumin and mint. That could be tasty. With that, whether you observe Ramadan or not, there's always a good time for self-reflection and developing more patience and compassion for others. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel and share my videos with others. Until next time, Afiyet Dozon, go bake the world.